We're looking into the Oregon Voters Pamphlet and why, as a voter, you need to take some of that information with a grain of salt.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't know that. Amy Fraser just back from meeting with Oregon's Secretary of State to break down why the Voters Pamphlet requires some critical thinking. Amy?
That's right, Jeff. While it's a crime for candidates to submit false information, ballot measure arguments are less regulated. It's just one of the things to keep in mind as you sit down and decide how to vote. It's your guide to Oregon candidates and ballot measures for the November general election. I found out this one cost about $700,000, about 50% paid for by candidates and those making measure arguments, the rest taxpayer money from the general fund. Dating back to 1902, Oregon was one of the first states to have a voters pamphlet compiled by the Secretary of State's office. So I went to the state capitol today to ask Secretary of State Kate Brown what voters need to be mindful of when using the voters pamphlet.
This is really cool. I don't think anyone has ever asked me these questions. This is really great.
Near the beginning of your pamphlet, you'll find information about the candidates, which is required by law to be truthful. Do you police the candidate statements?
Essentially, yes. Candidates, when they are required to submit the information, they sign a statement saying essentially that it's truthful. And if voters have concerns or Oregonians have concerns about the truthfulness of a candidate statement, they can file a complaint with our office.
I also asked about ballot measures, specifically the arguments listed in favor and against a measure. Who can submit an argument?
Anybody.
Pay $1,200 and your measure argument can be in the voters pamphlet. Brown tells me they're typically from those working with the yes or no campaigns. The details, though, are not policed. And you have to look at it with a critical eye.
Yes, very much.
I asked if that should be made more clear to voters in the pamphlet itself.
We don't really talk about critical thinking. I actually think that that makes some sense to put in here so that folks are looking at it with a more critical eye.
Something she says she'll look into. I found out there are other parts of the ballot measures meant to be more neutral. For example, the title is drafted by the Attorney General's office. The explanatory statement comes from a committee of 5, 2 for the measure, 2 against, and 1 neutral. Now, you may also notice, looking back at the measure arguments, that they aren't always balanced. For example, there might be 4 pages in favor of a measure and 1 argument against. The Secretary of State tells me there are no specific requirements on that. It just depends on what people submit. Reporting live in the newsroom, Amy Fraser, KOIN 6 News.